Sheesh, Herbert's 100 harem. "Excuse me, Miss Lady, have you seen my cousin?" An innocent voice asks, and she turns to see a little boy resplendent in reactive fabrics in every color of innocence and sweetness. Tiny tears are at the corner of his eyes, and he clearly has no ability to even see the full colors of the fabric. He must have been dressed by his Zedin family members, and a little boy sweet enough to wear it. Just looking at him is like the colors of the world, shifting to highlight this beacon of sheer innocence and sweetness that... I beg your pardon?" she asks and has to refocus her attention away from the absolutely adorable child in spellbinding clothing. Two Dizadin flanking him, clearly close, clearly protective, likely his sisters. "Have you seen my cousin? She hasn't answered our calls and I'm worried," the little boy explains before trailing off to sniffle. Time seems to skip, and she's being held back by the little boy's sisters, who are clearly very protective and unable to say no. "Hold yourself back, miss. I know he's cute, but you gotta stay focused," the one on her left says, and the little boy hiding behind one of his sisters' tailblade with wide eyes fills her with a sense of deep shame. What is a boy with his kind of looks doing out here? He's going to get kidnapped. I don't want OT, but even I nearly pounced on him. She hisses back to her fellow Zedin. "Can you say no to him?" the Zedin on the right asks, as the little boy goes from hiding behind her tailblade to examining the joints with his tiny little fingers, and a look of wonder on his face that makes him look even more. Reality jumps back in as her second attempt to pounce is thwarted, and the little boy is nowhere in sight. She turns her head and he's hanging onto his sister's back. That's adorable. "I'm sorry. What was the question?" she asked, and one of the sisters pulls out a communicator to project an image of a Dezedin woman. "He's looking for our cousin Varthi. She hasn't been answering his texts or the following calls, and now he's worried." The sister without the boy on her back explains. "He is? You're not? I'm more worried about him. For all that he's also very headstrong. Good father material someday, but right now it means that if he thinks he's right about something, he's going to go for it and isn't mature enough to understand when he's wrong." "But I'm not wrong," the little boy calls out. "I'm worried about family. That's always right. We love each other. It's what family does." "That is so sweet of him," she mutters before she shakes herself a little. She has to be calm. She has to be professional, and she suddenly realizes where there are so many damn scandals in the film industry with pedophiles. The very thought of it is like a slap to her face, and she stops. She takes a deep breath, and she calms down. "All right, can I see the image again?" The image is presented, and she examines it. The Dezedin woman has a slight yellow highlight near the edges of her carapace, so she's from the Golden Jungle, or at least her ancestors were. But what's really disappointing her about this is that she does not recognize the Dezedin in question, which means that the little boy is going to leave, and she stops that train of thought, takes a deep breath, and tries to put that sweet, innocent, and friendly little boy from her mind. "I seem to have overdone things," Herbert notes to himself as Agent Newt carries him away. "No kidding. Still, this is funny. Welcome to fucking intelligence, where we insult the intelligence of everyone around us just by giving them rope to hang by," Herbert replies in the sheer dissonance of a boy that looks and sounds so sweet, blatantly swearing, brings a laugh out of both of them. When she paces, she uses her whole apartment. Zedin move in 3 dimensions, not 2. The walls, the ceiling, and the floor are synonyms to her as she moves around to keep her mind functioning. Some people think by sitting and posing, others by staying busy. She thinks by moving, by prowling around as she plots and schemes. A simple, very simple mission had gone completely tits up, and she had been forced to activate her failsafe. It was galling, but she had done some looking into her opponent, an open intelligence officer. She couldn't tell if it was the weirdest joke she had ever seen or the most blatant threat that hadn't yet caused a war. She rubbed the spot where that needle had pierced her breast and growled a little. Things were clearly... A knocking at her door gets her to pause before she slinks along the ceiling and opens it from above before leaning out. Her neighbor is there. "Varthi, You didn't tell me that you had such an adorable little cousin. Shame on you." "I beg your pardon?" she asks the other woman, whose tail twitches in irritation. "There is a criminally cute little boy asking after his cousin. He's worried sick and is mentioning you by name and image. I get that your contract work might take you to strange hours, but at least answer the poor little boy when he calls you. This part of the plate is no place for so cute a little boy." I'm not sure I'd label any of my little cousins as criminally adorable." "Then, girl, your standards are way too high. I swear my vision goes runny at the edges when I'm looking at him. Reality is breaking down before the cuteness." "Have you been drinking?" "A little. More like a lot." "Go to bed, Edwina." "It's too early for bed," Edwina protests. "You're night shift, remember? Early is late." Varthi counters her neighbor before dropping down to the floor and then forcibly helping the other Zedin into her apartment and then onto her bed. She then leaves and heads back into her own. She locks it up and heads out. She reaches the upper landing pad of the building in short order and tilts her head down and sees a small crowd gathering, or trying not to gather. At the center is a pair of Zadine women that look somewhat related to each other, standing guard over someone she can't quite see from this angle. But it's clearly a tiny figure and one wearing Malaris cloth, a beautiful material that generally only races that see outside the standard spectrum can truly make out the colors of. Very popular among Dzedin and Yaya both. Very beautiful and full of hues that such a small percentile of the galactic population can actually see that there are no words for its colors in galactic trade. She prowls down along the underside of the landing pad and down the side of the building, seeing the tiny figure dashing around, always concealed from her sight by the two nearby Dzedin. Are they relatives of hers? None of her cousins are the really contact-happy or panicky types to check on her like this. But her family is vast to say the least, and it is possible. She has been neglecting a few of her alternate contact IDs, the ones she rarely, if ever, uses. If she gave that one out by accident, now that she's closer, she can make out the colors of the cloth very clearly. The colors of innocence, sweetness, and tied together in a way that says love. The world seems to sparkle as he turns in her direction, and her grip starts to falter as she looks at him. He is so very, very cute. Also familiar, is he related to her? She would have known if he was part of her family. No, he can't be related. Is this a publicity stunt? Did she win some kind of contest? She's less crawling down the side of the building and more running at this point, as her instincts, both maternal and mating, are saying to get as close as possible. One side of her wants to protect and keep this child safe. The other side says that in a few years he will be a flawless mate. The mixing of the signals is screwing with her mind as she reaches ground level and begins to stalk forward. All three of them turn towards her, and the little boy's expression lights up, which sends several nearby, more questionable women into a charging frenzy. She rushes herself, mostly to try and stop them, and there's a few very confusing seconds as everything goes everywhere when one of the distant sisters suddenly declares, "This was a bad idea and we're going home. Emergency recall." And all three are gone. That sets things off a little work, as the charging girls are sharply reprimanded and even hit a few times for being so stupid, and then the questions turn towards Varthi, who's suddenly trying to piece together just where she knows that adorable little boy from, how she knows him, and what's going on. She needs to call her family. Something is up, and she hates being out of the know. After their call, all three of them returned in a hurry, no longer in civilian attire and dead silent. The sheer change in Herbert from the insanely adorable kid to the shadow he was now was startling. The mission was a complete success so far as they had lured their target out of their apartment, tagged her with a tracer, and were currently in her apartment to find clues. "Does everything happen this fast normally?" Agent Ripley asks, and the silent merely nods in return. "Small, yes. Deadly? Absolutely." He finds a hidden container on the underside of a drawer with a deactivated communicator inside it. He inserts a small data chip into it, activates it, and then after a few moments, it deactivates itself and he removes the chip. He does this 3 more times with different communicators and inserts a tiny device into the lining of several different outfits. The entire time, Newt and Ripley are standing guard and watching either outside the window or listening at the door with their nerves jangling. Then he signals for them to leave and they all flow out of the apartment like a whisper and head for the roof. A van is already waiting and all three extract into it. Only then does Herbert remove his mask and visor to speak. All right, that was a flawless success. We have confirmed the location of the suspect, marked her in numerous ways, gotten a fair amount of data, and can now track her with ease, as well as find out who she's been speaking to on the sly. And all it took was nearly kicking off a riot as you lured in and tempted multiple women to try and kidnap you for unsavory purposes. Newt remarks and Herbert shrugs. My family has some fun traits. We look very, very appealing pre-puberty, and then are average at best as adults. We could have been rich in the entertainment industry, but it has a habit of chewing up child starts and spitting out mangled wrecks. So your family avoids it? We avoid the hell out of it. All of us are told after we hit puberty that we're safe now because we're too good-looking as children. Dangerously so, Herbert says before smiling at the two. The traceries of the makeup in Zidane appealing hues make both women internally sequel. Still, perfect field mission girls. At this rate, you'll both be right terrors to anyone that looks at the undaunted cross-eyed. Really? You two stayed in character while watching my back the entire time. And I know that you spotted the target almost as soon as I did and positioned yourselves in order to keep her guessing about me the whole time. If that went off any more flawlessly, then we would have won just by showing up. So what's the next step with her? Well, we got the frequencies of her hidden communicators, and we tagged the outfits with expanded pockets with trackers. So if she goes out to do something, we'll know where, and if she starts talking to people, we'll be able to listen in. We? Newt asks. If you weren't standing guard, I'd have to be a lot more careful and time-consuming. So yes, we, Herbert says as he brushes back his hair to get the slightly stiff feeling out of it. Every part of him had been dolled up to the nines in order to make him more something out of a person's imagination about how cute a little boy can be than anything practical. Take the wins, Newt. Ripley chides her as she reaches over to pat Newt on the shoulder, then grabs Herbert and pulls him onto her lap. Still, you are going to get mugged when you go home tonight. I get mugged every night. This is just going to particularly enthusiastic mugging. He corrects her, and she laughs even as he visibly relaxes on her. So anyone want to guess at the mission outcome? I'm guessing that this woman is some kind of hired help, a professional infiltrator, assassin, or thief. She has no emotional involvement in things but knows enough names and numbers to bury an army's worth of people alive in their guilt. Can I just agree with you and call it there? Ripley asks. What no theory of your own? Well, she was in stealth in the station. She had a getaway method. She clearly didn't think anything would come of the needle, so it was either an amateur hour oversight or she honestly doesn't think she's in the system. But I do think you're right. There was no cult paraphernalia I could see, nothing in the apartment that suggested she was crazy. So I think she's not local, that her family is far away, which is why us showing was so odd to her, and she had to come take a look. I think that we're going to keep searching and find out that in some distant system in prosperous space she's got a record, Ripley explains, and Herbert nods. It makes sense. And she definitely has a big family. After all, she was fooled long enough to come looking, which means that she's not entirely sure of who's in it or who could contact her. So that means that there's a lot of them or she's severely out of touch. Maybe both, Newt adds. Also, while she was technically in a bad part of town on the plate, no plate has any part as bad as the lower 10 of a spire. So, this was technically in the slums of a plate. But it was the good slums, if you can get what I'm saying. I do, lots of amenities and low crime relative to a spire's bottom 10, but incredibly lacking in lots of crime compared to the gleaming tips of a spire or the standard areas of a plate. Herbert agrees. Right, but someone with that kind of job gets a lot of money. So she's here for subtle reasons, Ripley says, and Herbert nods before elaborating. Location is also a big one. The plates have much easier access to each other and the spires than the spires do to the plates. Someone working all over Centrus would find a home here to be more or less a perfect location. So now comes the waiting game, Newt says. Yep, and thankfully you girls are just waiting on one. I've got 3 to worry about, or at least 3 immediate ones to worry about There's another dozen missions that I'm privy to and might have to act on. Herbert says after thinking, when do you find time to sleep? When my shift ends and they throw me out of the department? Herbert replies, and there's a twinned huff of amusement from the dissident.